Hello, everyone. Welcome to MPower Season 2, Episode 2, my guy. I'm your host, Noah,
I'm your co-host, Josh.
and we are excited to bring you today's episode. It's going to be sick. You think it's going to be sick?
Oh, it's going to be crazy.
Man.
Y'all not ready for it, man. Y'all not ready for it.
Absolutely not ready. And it's not like we literally just planned it out like 2 seconds before recording this. So we're actually very well prepared, man. That's I'm not going to lie to you.
Holy Spirit, bro.
Yeah.
He prepared it before we even thought about this thing.
That is absolutely correct. So it doesn't even matter about what we prepared before this. But we have a lot of amazing stuff to talk about with you guys today. We're kind of just, as the title is going to suggest, obviously, we're going to talk about, just the concept of perfection and how we aren't, we aren't that. As human beings, we are very much imperfect individuals. And so, we have to ask ourselves the tough questions of how do we live in that? How do we walk in a life knowing that we're going to mess up and that others are going to mess up? So, but before we get into all of that, I want to remind you all of our partner, GP Clothes. Still have that deal going on with the 15% off, I believe. If you type in the code MPower as a promo code after you check out, you can get 15% off your purchase. So do that. Again, we need money. We need it. Like, we really need money. I can't
College students.
Come on, man. Like, what do you think this is, man? But, on the real, though, for real, check them out. I think they actually just dropped some new stuff. Like, if you haven't checked out the website, like, if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, message me and ask me what the link to their website is. I will personally send it to you. They actually got some good stuff. So, definitely encourage you guys to go check that out. But without further ado, let's get into the meat of this episode, bro. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. So, me personally, when I was thinking about this episode, I was just kind of like struggling because I don't know if I told you, or actually I did tell you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this. but this past summer, man, was just a crazy season for me. It was definitely the hardest season of my life, without a doubt. And part of that was because of the fact that like I felt so much pressure by school and just by kind of like family issues to like just be this, I don't know, this perfect person. There was a standard that was placed on me. Like, I'm an architect major. I actually have some of my work here, but you can't see that because it's on the other side of this recording. But I have some of my work here. And one of the things, like, for at least the professor I had during the summer, like, he just stressed like every bit of detail in our work. Like, these lines have to be completely straight. They have to be the right thickness, the right line weight. I said that. And all these different things, even when we were documenting it, because, we're still in COVID time. So I'm not in-person background class. I've actually never had an in-person college class.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's the crazy. Unless you count dual enrollment in high school, but who really counts that? Because I wasn't even on campus. I was still at my high school. So I don't even really count that. So I've never been to an actual university lecture class sit down. I don't know what that experience is like, but we'll get there eventually. But
it's pretty boring.
Really? So you've experienced it?
Yeah, because I'm a Full Sail student. They're open and we're on campus. We're supposed to be on campus, but it's all right. It's all right. It depends on what you're doing.
Well, you're there for like sun up to sundown. So I'm like, I don't know, man. You have it tough. But that, like, my design studios, like, they're supposed to be like in person. It makes it so much better that way. You get hands-on critiques there with your models, your sketches, and all that sort of stuff. So doing it online has been a very tough scenario, not just for the students, but for the professors as well. But because of that, like, my professor, man, like, when we would upload our work to Canvas, he was like, I want you to document these and they have to look professional. Like, they have to be like crisp white backgrounds. Like, the contrast of your pencil to the white background needs to be sharp. It needs to be professional, like clear pictures taken at the right angle, all these sorts of different things. I'm just like, this is a design class, not a photography class. So it's like, I'm like, you're not teaching us how to, like, do these properly. And he's like, well, then you just need to scan it. I'm just like, do you have money to go buy a professional scanner? Where's it coming from? Like, you're already asking us to buy all these like crazy expensive college like equipment for like drafting and all that stuff. Not to bang on this professor, I actually liked him. He helped me grow a lot, but he put a lot of pressure on me. And part of it was a good thing that he had such high expectations, but it was also a little bit of a bad thing because I legit felt like he was asking for perfection from us. And so I guess, like, first off, let me just go ahead and ask you, like, have you ever experienced something like that? Like, you felt pressure? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I went through, because, being in church, believer in God, follower of Christ. I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in the church, and my dad and my mom, I grew up, most people like, oh, you're a pastor's kid. You've never done this. You've never experienced anything. You had a horrible childhood. I had a really good childhood for the most part.
That's good.
And like, my parents were never really strict on me, but part of seeing people that were so much like this and so much like that, and they almost seemed perfect for me, in my heart, in my mind, I felt like I had to be like that. I have to be like this. I have to be a certain way for different people. I had this whole season that I went through where, because I love to see people happy. I love to see people joyous. I love to bring joy to people, but the enemy kind of perverted it in a way where I was living for people. And I was trying to do everything I could to please people. And when you try to please an imperfect thing and you try to please imperfect people, you're always going to be changing because they're changing. You know what I'm saying? You're always going to be changing something about yourself. I was never myself for a while. I think the biggest amount of pressure that I felt was probably when I first became addicted to pornography. And I remember I talked to my mom about it, but I was never able to talk to my dad about it because even though my dad never put that pressure, it was the things that he said and some of the things that that I viewed, in terms of like sin, like if you're sinning, you're gonna, this and that, and then you're gonna burn in hell, and this. Not to me, he wasn't saying these things to me, but just the principles and some of the things that he preached. And he would always preach the love of God, but it was more so the wrath and the judgment of God when you mess up. And obviously, things are true. Unfortunately, hell is a real place, but the way that I saw it, it was like, wow, I can't mess up at all. Like, there's no room. And when I fell into that, it was the pressure of, man, it's too late for me. It's too late. I've already messed up. I've already tainted my own innocence. All of these things have already happened. So it was always that constant pressure of, I wasn't giving it to God like I should have. I was trying to fix it myself. And just the constant pressure of, just being in school and trying to conform myself to everybody else. Because in my opinion, I was like, okay, that person is valuable. That person is valuable. I don't really have much value in myself. How can I make them see my value? Let me conform to them. And I was just constantly changing in a bad way.
And what's crazy about that is the people that we put on that pedestal, they're imperfect too. And sometimes like they can have great intentions over our lives. Like, I'm sure your parents, whatever, like they'll tell you things, they'll like have these high expectations for you, but like they aren't perfect either, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But one thing that I've ran into, especially kind of this summer for me, was the people who were expecting kind of not imperfection, people who were expecting perfection from me. I started realizing like the advice that they were giving me to kind of help me achieve that sort of level or nirvana or whatever. I was like, like you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. It's okay to not have all the answers, but we can't go around acting like we do. And I'm not insinuating that maybe that they did, but that shit, it gave me something to check in my spirit, just in my life. I'm just like, okay, like at first, like some of the stuff that you're saying that I can improve in and stuff, like, okay, like this is good stuff for me. I believe that like I agree with you. But there are some times where you really just have to be able to check with yourself and check with God, like, hey, like is what they're saying, does it actually have validity in my life? It may be in somebody else's life, maybe in your life, but is it right for me? And sometimes I would get that feeling. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if like that's correct for me. But the thing is, there are such wise people, or you might have such a great friend who's always been there for you. And so you're naturally inclined to adopt every little thing that they say to you. And like, that's such an easy thing to get caught up in. Like we all have the super wise friend. Like we go to him or her for advice or whatever. It could even be a pastor, a leader, whatever it is. We're so inclined all the time. It's like, oh, if they say something about me, it must be right because they're so smart. But they're not perfect. And we have to remember that at the end of the day, they're just human beings, just like you. It's funny because like people like because in my drama, I do human videos. There'll be people that like I would look up to, and I'm like, wow, like these people are so amazing. But like when you meet them, you realize they're just regular people too. It's the same thing in life, bro. Like,
yeah, that's good.
there are people who like we put on a pedestal so many times, and we expect them to just be better than us. But in reality, sometimes they just see things that we don't see. But sometimes we see things that they don't see either. So we always have to take advice with a grain of salt. Like we can't just completely take, like, even from a pastor, like be willing to challenge something a pastor says, so that way you can have a better understanding of the word of God.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like that's a lot of good things that you just touched. I remember in terms of being in the film industry and everything, you see a lot of people that you look up to. You know what I'm saying? I want to get into directing. So directors, I'm like Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, all of these different people.
Tarantino's a good one.
He's a really good one. I like Tarantino.
I love that.
Christopher Nolan.
Oh, Christopher Nolan. Oh, Tenet. Oh my gosh. You saw Tenet?
Yeah, man, that thing gives your brain a headache if you don't understand.
I was sitting there after that movie like,
I had to watch it twice. I
don't know if my brain can handle it twice, but I'm sorry.
But like you see all of these people, and then like obviously I've never met these people to say, oh, they're just regular people. But like if you just look at interviews and you just listen to them, like I like challenge you all to find someone, a celebrity, your favorite celebrity or your favorite mentor that is out and famous, quote unquote, and just look at an interview and just look at their demeanors. It's just like us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're people just like us. Even though they're put on this pedestal for different things, they're still the same. And we're all gifted the same. That's the thing. Nobody is better than anybody else. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. We are equal in terms of being a person. You know what I'm saying? We all bleed red. There's no difference.
I don't know. I think I told you last episode. I be bleeding blue, bro.
It was yellow this morning, bro.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Man. That might actually be unhealthy.
We're just built different.
That might be unhealthy.
But that's a good point though, because I honestly sometimes I be struggling with that with Kanye, bro. Kanye West, bro. At the time of this recording, Donda just dropped, and like, bro, first of all, that album was amazing. Can't tell me otherwise. Honestly, I haven't. So Certified Lover Boy actually just came out last night, and I was at the movie theater or whatever, so like it was like super late, so I started listening to it, but I fell asleep. So I was, maybe it was because I didn't like it, but maybe it was probably just because I was just tired. Mm-hmm. So I've listened to a little bit, but not all of it, because I was asleep for the rest of it. But the stuff that I did listen to, wasn't really feeling it. But we can talk about that later. Yeah. But my point is, Donna just dropped, and me, like, if you know me, man, I love Kanye West. I think that man's a genius. He says things that are very sometimes outlandish and sometimes just very controversial. And sometimes I find myself like agreeing with him. I'm like, wow, I really see what he means. Sometimes he'll say certain things and like I'll know his intention, but I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really resonate with that, or like, I don't know if I necessarily agree. I agree with his sentiment and where he's going, but I personally, just like specifically the pathway that he chose, I'm saying, nah, I'm not really with that. And that's okay. Sometimes it's hard for me to like say that though, because I'm naturally inclined, because I'm like, man, he's a genius. I honestly see myself in him. Not to say that I'm a genius, but like as far as like his struggles, and like that would be so funny if I was just gassing myself up like that. I promise that's not what I meant. But no, I just I see myself in him in a sense where it's like he has gone through so much, and the way that he thinks, I feel like the way my brain works is similar to the way his brain works. I can tell through his craft, through his art. And that's why I look up to him so much. But like I've come to realization recently, I'm just like, man, like I can't treat him like he's God, because he clearly isn't. He's clearly got issues, and we all do. Mm-hmm. But I have to be willing to agree with him just as much as I disagree with him. So I that's something that I've kind of struggled with, in that sort of sense of like, you want to make sure you don't have false idols.
Real quick, I'm like this. I have a friend. I had a friend, and he was one of those people where he would always talk down on me for something. It was always something where he was always talking about me, or just any opportunity that he could get to bring me down, he would just spit it out. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a very good friend, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, but like, what happened was, man, is that like at the time I had a lot of insecurities in me, a lot of insecurities, childhood insecurities, and it wasn't necessarily him saying it. It was what I believed in myself that he said. You know what I'm saying? But I saw him as this person that was like, wow, he's such a cool person. He's doing all of these different things. He has all of these followers. He has all of these people, all of these skills, and all of these direction. Like, wow, I want to be like him. I want to prove to him that I'm something. You know what I'm saying? I want to prove to him that I am this person. You know what I'm saying? Like he was very knowledgeable person, very smart, genius, skilled. You know what I'm saying? And I envied these things because I wasn't confident in myself.
Yeah, right.
And when God delivered me at Voice a few months ago, he delivered me and he was showing me, I've made you whole. Everything that has been said to you in terms of like negativity and lies, and it's all a lie from the enemy. Once he delivered me, it's like the sunglasses came off. It's like I could see. And then as I was seeing, I was like, wait, this person is also vulnerable. This person is also hurting. This person is also not as celebrity as I thought he was. This person is actually human.
Yeah.
And looks up to me. Not that I'm someone to look up to, but I'm saying like he looks up to me, and I didn't realize that until I just started to see a couple of things. And it's crazy. The way that he talked to me, it was all based off of insecurities in him.
Wow.
And it was all the same way. You know what I'm saying? And it just goes to show that sometimes we tend to idolize others because we're not confident in ourselves. Because we don't love ourselves. Like, I don't love me, but he is doing something that I want to do. Let me look up to him. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, we're all fearfully and beautifully made. God made us individual. I think I was telling you this yesterday. Man, we're all beautiful people, bro.
Oh,
you're a beautiful person.
You're a good looking.
You're a good looking man, bro.
You look good.
I just gotta punch it out. I'm not gonna punch it.
Bro, don't make me act up, bro. Not on camera, man.
Yeah, but man, like, we're all beautiful people inside and out, and we all have things, different skills, different purposes, different things that we're good at, different things that we're not so good at, different hurts, different struggles. But the fact is, we all have something to bring to the table. You're just as gifted as Kanye West. Just as gifted. But, I mean, you may not have the exact, like...
Oh, my gosh. This is going to make me act up. Oh, my gosh.
But, in a way, like, you may not be able to rap like him.
No,
I don't think so. No. You do, because you can spit some bars, though.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not even...
I was about to back you up. Good thing I didn't, because I can't rap. But, you're in, like, there's something about you that is different from Kanye, but still just as gifted as him because God made you both. So it just goes to show that we need to stop putting other people on a pedestal. And sorry about that.
That's my valedictorian.
Yeah, I know, my bad. Like, we need to stop putting people on a pedestal. I'm not saying looking up to someone. There's nothing wrong with that. But putting people where we start to idolize them because they're just like us.
That's right. That's
just
absolutely right, man. Like, each and every single one of us has something inside of us that is so important and so beautiful and so God-given. And with that doesn't make us perfect, but it makes us important. And so it's like, I don't have what Kanye West has, but he doesn't have what I have, Right. It's just like, we have to remember those sorts of things, because I remember it so vividly too. Like, there was a friend I had back in my hometown. We don't talk too much anymore, but it was funny because I always looked up to him. I was like, man, this guy's like the perfect package. Everybody loves him. He does this, he does that. Wish I was like him. I kid you not, man. This man called me up at 4 a.m. one night. This man was just like, bro, I'm just like so messed up right now. I'm so sad. I'm like, why? What's up? He's like, bro, I just wish I could just be like you. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, what? And we had this moment where I was just like, I want to be like you, and so we were both confused. It's like, why do we want to be like each other? We both saw each other as like these perfect beings. We had the perfect life or whatever. And like, we realized in that moment, neither of us are perfect, but each of us possesses something inside of us that is so beautiful and so vital. So what we ended up doing, we ended off the night by telling each other things that we liked about the other person. And we just kind of encourage each other in that sort of way. So this episode isn't meant to bring us down like, hey, we're all terrible people, we're scum of earth, all that. No, that's not what that means. It means that just because like we aren't, perfect individuals, and we can't like, do whatever, it doesn't mean that like there's something inside of us that isn't right. And another thing that it means as well that I want to get into with is we shouldn't look down on other people for not being perfect. People mess up. People make mistakes. I was telling you just before this actually of this instance where like, or actually I don't even know if this has specifically happened to me, but like there's sometimes people will tell me about certain times where like we'll be in church or whatever, or they'll be like, and honestly this type of stuff kind of makes the church look weird, but it's admirable. It's kind of like how with Jehovah's Witnesses, like they go around and it's like they're knocking on all these doors. It's like, it's admirable. We may not like it because it took me away from watching Frozen 2 seconds ago, but at the time, man, that was my first time seeing Frozen, and Jehovah's.
I love that movie,
bro. Like I was so tight because they kept me at my door for 30 minutes. I'm not gonna, what? I was just trying to watch Frozen. But my point is, it's admirable like that. In the same way that the Christian church, like, it does this, is what I'm about to tell you. It's like, you ever been in that position? You're chilling or whatever. You might just be eating some nachos with some friends. I don't know why I specifically chose nachos, but that's just what came to my mind. And this man walks up to you, all confident, smile on his face, like, hey, man, I'm finna change this bro's life. I'm finna, he ain't never finna be the same after I talk to him. Walks up to you and be like, hey, man, I was talking to God and he really put you on my heart. And I was just wondering, do you have a dad named Phil who has lung cancer? And you're just there like,
my dad's name is David.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, yo, no, bro, I don't. And so then the conversation gets awkward. You're like, oh, never mind then. God bless, And it's like, that person's not perfect, but they tried.
Oh,
wow.
They
had good intentions. And, and not to say that prophesying and like discernment and stuff like that, those things are very real. But my point is, sometimes like people think that that's what's happening and it's not. And so they mess up and it kind of gets a little awkward, but we shouldn't look down like, oh, wow, that person really isn't touched by God. That person really, like, he doesn't have discernment and all that stuff. Sometimes we make mistakes. But that person was at least bold enough to try. Versus for some of these people listening to the sound of my voice right now, there have been things that God's been put inside of you for a really long time that you haven't even bothered to even try to speak out. You haven't even bothered to take that first step. At least that person was bold enough to be wrong. He was bold enough to be imperfect and let his imperfection show. But you've been just bottling that up inside of you. And yeah, I'm looking right at you in the camera. Like, it's like, wow. Bro, just because we're imperfect, like, yes, we're going to mess up, but we can't be scared to make mistakes. We can't be scared to be human. Like, that's part of us. And that's just something that is really been something that I've realized in my life recently. Like, we have to be able to be bold. We have to be daring. We have to be, but we also have to be intentional with our conversations.
Absolutely.
Let me caveat off of that, because that doesn't mean we should just go up, especially as Christians, we shouldn't just go up and just start saying anything to people. We have to be Christ-led. We have to be intentional with our conversations. We just really have to, even though we're imperfect, we still should be progressing. And that's kind of like one of the last things that I kind of want to get into. I guess the main question I want to ask you is, as imperfect human beings, as imperfect individuals, how do we still strive towards progression in our lives?
Wow, man, you touched a lot of really good things there, man.
I didn't know I was going to say all that.
That was really good, though. That was really good. Man, points on that, bro. Like,
oh, yeah, if you want to address certain things first before you answer the
question. No, you're good. I just want to say, like, man, I was one of those people that always judged everybody else instead of looking at myself. You know what I'm saying? I was the first person to point out a flaw in someone else when the mirror's right beside me, but I just blocked the mirror. I didn't even look at that joint. But, like, I remember... for me, just real quick, like, I had a situation, for me, relationships has always been a stumbling block for me in terms of pursuing women and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Getting into relationships. And, we may have an episode about that coming up, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But basically, bro, like, that was always a stumbling block for me because it wasn't anything, I didn't want anything wrong at all. Like, it wasn't any sexual desire, just getting to know someone and getting into a relationship with someone, but I was putting that above God, and it was idolatry.
Wow.
And which is a horrible sin. Just read the Bible. You'll see how bad idolatry is. But I would look at other people in high school who weren't saved, like, oh, he just wants her for sex or this and that, and they don't even care. They don't know how to treat women. Come on, man, I'm better than that. Straight pride. You know what I'm saying?
Prideful, bro.
You know, honestly, I can't even say this was too long ago, man, when we had this conversation about those people that, I wouldn't say fake prophesy, but just miss the mark sometimes. Sometimes they're genuinely just trying to get attention, but other times, you know, it's a genuine mistake. You know, I used to have a problem where I would just completely judge people like that without even really thinking about where their heart was coming from. Like, that's the thing. Like, as believers, we are called to call out and bring people to repentance, to tell people about what's going on, to tell people about sin, to bring, you know, sometimes correction and to bring conviction. But that does not mean that we condemn and judge people. That is not what that means. You can tell someone what you're doing is wrong without condemning them and making it seem like you're this judge, jury, and executioner. Right. But like, to answer your question about, like, you know, how do we balance being imperfect? First, we need to understand that we are nothing without God. You know, that's something that God has put in me. I realized that my biggest temptation, and it still is my biggest temptation sometimes, is pride. That is the biggest temptation for me. Wow. Not the type of pride of, oh man, you know, I'm this and I'm that, you know, I'm not that type of pride, but it's the pride of, I got this, I can do this without God. Or the pride of, I'm righteous by myself. You know what I'm saying? Or this is even deep, the pride of, man, I'm messed up and I sinned, man. I fell to this, I did that, I watched that I shouldn't have watched, man. I am just horrible. I was doing so good yesterday. Like, to God, all sin is the same. You're complaining about that. You just lied yesterday and you didn't even say anything about it. It's all the same. The standard is, to God, is all the same. So
you can be prideful even in your sin.
You can be prideful even in repentance sometimes, man.
Wow.
It's crazy. So like, I'm sorry, I don't want to get off track, but like,
no, that's good.
Basically, man, like, to progress and realizing that it's imperfection, the first step to progressing is to realize that you're imperfect, to realize that you're going to miss the mark sometimes, to realize that there are going to be some situations where you don't always cross every T and dot every I. So once you realize that, you're able to realize, okay, how can I move forward? God, I can't do this without you. You speak through me. You do this through me, and then I'll move. And then even when you do fall, even when you have those imperfect moments, you realize, you know what? It's already been paid for. That sin has already been paid for when Jesus died on the cross. And I just got to get up and keep moving forward. And if you're not a believer listening to this podcast, you know, I highly encourage you to just think about it. You know what I'm saying? Just think about these things. Think about Christ and think about the Bible and think about God. I completely understand that there are, you know, people out there that misrepresent God and misrepresent who he is, if you're suffering with church hurt or anything like that. But I just encourage you to just be open, because a lot of the questions in your life, a lot of questions that you have, they can be found in him. So I would just say the first step to progressing is to admit that there is a problem.
For sure. Because oftentimes, like, you know, it's like people will try to get they'll say like, oh, I want to get my life in order. I want to like do this, do that. Like, I really want to just move up to the next level. No pun intended. That'll make sense to some people. But the thing is, how are you going to do that though? Because you don't even know what you have to get right first. You have to evaluate yourself first. Like, okay, what areas am I lacking in? So I can put a little bit of extra time, effort, and energy into those areas. So I can kind of, you know, they won't be perfect. They won't end up being like, you know, completely where I want it to be, but I can at least improve on those areas a little bit more, spend a little bit more time, intentionality with it. Like, you won't be able to move up in life like that. You won't be able to better yourself unless you first identify your weaknesses. That's why in job interviews, they ask you, like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Those things are important to identify. If you can't identify yourself, then you won't be able to truly become an asset to anybody or anything, you know? So definitely I agree with you in that sort of sense. And one thing is we also have to keep in mind is, yes, there are plenty of times in our lives where we're going to mess up, but how will you get up? How are you going to pick yourself up, and how are you going to just say no? Like, I'm not going to settle for just being down here. I might have made a mistake, whatever, but like, what's the come up going to look like? How are you going to brush off the dirt and just keep going? That's one of the biggest things that you have to ask yourself. So unless there's anything else that you wanted to point out specifically, are you?
Man, just one more thing just to add on that real quick. Like, there's this. This is really old. I'm an old school guy, man.
You're an old head.
I'm an old head, man. I don't know. You've heard of a commission? Commission? You never heard of commission?
What is that?
You never heard of commission? The gospel group?
I was like, is that a TV show?
No. It's a gospel group. A gospel group. Oh man, we have a whole. We gotta fix that.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. I'm sorry. Like,
forgive me for judging. But like, basically, man, there's this song, "Back in the Saddle," and it's an upbeat type song, but it's about getting up when you fall. In the Bible it says a righteous man may fall 7 times 7, but it's how he gets up that defines him. You know what I'm saying? It's how he gets up and move forward. Because you mess up, we need to just understand this is life. It's not perfect. We're gonna mess up. We just need to realize that in spite of our mess ups, to just get ourselves together, shake the dust off our feet, and just keep moving forward. True. Easier said than done sometimes, but you just got to do it.
Yeah, man. I wholeheartedly agree. I hope that this episode was just, helpful to all of you who may be listening through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever, or, to whoever is watching on our new YouTube channel. I truly just be able to hope that this can truly just be able to empower you guys like that. Again, that's like the whole point of this. We truly want to be just better versions of ourselves because, again, at the end of the day, we may not be perfect beings, but we are progressing beings. And if you watch a little bit of Mike Todd, then you know that I probably kind of stole that a little bit from him. But it's true, though. He can't patent that saying, so I'm going to say it too. But he's someone that I think is influential, and I'm inspired by him. He's not a perfect man, but he's a progressing man. So on that note, I guess we can wrap it up here. I think this is a very good episode, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm so looking forward to everything else we have planned for you guys. It's going to be amazing. So stick around. Keep staying, keep tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Love you. This is Noah signing out.
Josh signing out.
We love you guys. Bye.
We hope you guys enjoyed that video, and we have a lot more content coming your way.
Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and tune in every Saturday at 7 a.m. on whatever listening platform you may be listening to for a new episode of MPower.
Catch you guys later.
That works.
That works.